Hey, how's it going? Thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel. This is my very first YouTube video that I'm making. I am very glad to have you. I hope I can keep your interest. I think that if you listen in and watch this video, you'll get a good understanding on this program that I've created, and maybe I could apply this program to you. What program is it? It's HINDsight 80/20. I've created a bunch of social media platforms to help get the word out. HINDsight 80/20 is a life tracking program. It's like a life coach on steroids, literally using a sophisticated algorithm with statistical models to look at your life. And if there are any things in your life that are out of whack, if you feel like maybe you're at your wit's end, you've visited as many professionals as possible, and they're all contradicting each other, or not spending more than a couple minutes with you before they download or give you a bunch of different things to try, and it's more like a trial and error. I'm not professing that I'm a professional and can do a better job at diagnosing than them. What my program, HINDsight 80/20, actually is taking their recommendations and monitoring your life, as well as you taking, whether it's prescriptions or a diet. You know, some doctors are now big on not eating gluten with the celiac disease. Some don't recommend eating corn. There's thousands of different diets out there. Atkins, I don't know. I don't diet myself, though I am amenable to the idea given some of the results I've had. So anyway, I don't want to go too deep into it before I start sharing information or insights on this HINDsight 80/20 program. What the gist of my story is I have had some serious struggles with mental health issues. I call them emotional wellness issues, where your emotions seem to drive sometimes your decisions, and it can be depression, feeling worthless, like a loser, or not even feeling anything, having anhedonia, the lack of feeling pleasure, or feeling very anxious around people, around events, around conditions or situations. I've struggled with those. I could give you plenty of examples of areas or places where I've felt anxious and been laying in bed for days in a row with depression. In fact, and I'll add more detail maybe later on in future podcasts or future YouTube videos. But in about 2017, I felt very lost, very much like a loser. And I have a family, and I was not sure how many days I could go to work. In fact, towards the end of my time at this particular group, I was barely able to function. Everybody who I worked with seemed to be out for me. There was a lot of, hyper vigilant, anxious chemistry going on in my body, to say the least, to where my outset on life was very low. And I thought that, I'll take care of my family. I'll get my house sold. I'll move them in with my in-laws, quit my job, obviously. But those days were not very good. I had started a book, a novel, and it had turned into this really long story that I would leave with my kids to give them words of wisdom or something that would explain what I was going to. It was called Wriggle Rage in Timbertown. It was a follow-on book to the first cartoony book that I created, which was Fever Fever in Spillage Village. Anyway, so I got to a really low point in my life. We moved. My in-laws, bless their hearts, they brought us in with open arms. I was able to get through that, get another job. However, here I am in January 2022, again, unemployed, quit my job to go to another job, hoping that my wellness would improve, but I only was able to last 2.5 weeks at this other job before I was completely overwhelmed. The company had done a few things that I didn't anticipate that were opposite what they said. Anyway, so here I am at the end of January. No, actually it's the 1st of February. So I've already gone through January. I've been unemployed a few months and I'm looking for a job. I just don't know if my mental wellness or my next company or group will be the right fit for me. And that's what I'm looking for. But one of the things that have allowed me, just by sheer luck, maybe, or a significant amount of effort to get where I am, still carrying on, is this program, HINDsight 80/20. And I wanted to share this with you in case maybe it gave you an idea to help deal with whatever it is you are dealing with, and maybe even help I could apply this program to your life and we could figure out what it is that is causing issues, whether with your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, whatever. This program can be adapted to really anything. All it does is the work is a couple minutes a day of inputting values of your diet, your sleep, your exercise, whatever it is you think is contributing to this ailment that you have in your life. And after periodically, I'll run this algorithm, the statistical algorithm that I created, and I'll see just basically what might be improving your health or degrading your health. And so I've kind of got new technology here. I'm in my man cave, so just to prove it, it's literally a 5-foot tall piece of the garage that we turned into an office for the small home we bought when I re-entered the workforce, because at that time the housing market was crazy, which it's even more crazy now, probably over $100,000 more crazy. Anyway, so without more talking, I'll adjust my screen here and I'll start talking about the program, and I'll give you an overview. I'll work backwards and forwards randomly. This isn't really very well scripted, so I apologize in advance, but I wanted to give you an idea of what's available if you're fighting mental health issues, if you're fighting dietary issues, health issues that way, where you feel like maybe the professionals are just randomly assigning you diagnoses and it's just not quite meeting up. Or I'm not saying I'm a professional or any better than them. I am definitely not trained, but I am trained as an analyst. I've been doing aerospace engineering or rocket science for over 16 years now. And when I started suffering from these symptoms, and I just picked up what tools I knew And I began applying them, and here I am several years later, finding a lot of traction towards my betterment. Mental health is so misunderstood. I guess I'll just dwell on this for a second. I used to work for the Air Force and the military. They do have a lot of issues with PTSD and mental illness and a lot of suicides, very high rate of suicides, and they put forth a lot of mandatory training, praising those who have their mental toughness and resilience, all these really big buzzwords which are completely misused, especially when you've come from a position where you know what it feels like to be depressed, and you know that just changing your thoughts is not the core solution. But we'll talk about some of the methods that do help to to mitigate or to minimize or to lessen the risk of going into a full-blown depressive episode. At least for me, everything that I'm talking about is from my own experience. And I'll show you about the 62 plus variables that I've tried in my life over the last 3.5 years. And, over 800 days of data recorded. I'll show you how I reduced all of these studies. I have had some success doing this program for others who have suffered in different ways or been recommended by their doctors a certain dietary change, whether it's abstinence from sugar, the great evil, or whether it's not eating corn or not eating gluten, the big celiac scare that we have. The thing is everybody is different. Our genetics are very much the same, but there's just so much of a difference between individuals. Some people love vanilla, other people love chocolate. And I just think that solutions need to be customized to the individual. And this is what HINDsight 80/20 does. It's the most extreme life coach that you'll ever have. It's a life coach on steroids who will know you better than you know yourself and help you, give you hindsight, knowing yourself better. The 80/20 portion of HINDsight 80/20 is the idea of the Pareto principle. If you haven't heard that, it's basically the numbers 80/20 is, for example, if you have a closet full of clothes, it's very possible that 20% of the clothes in there you are wearing 80% of the time. I believe at its origin, there was a guy named Pareto. This is very lay person's description of it. And he noticed that he was planting peas, and he noticed that only 20% of his pea plants were producing 80% of the product. And so I wanted to use that because in our life, we're busy enough. We don't have really the wherewithal, or the time, energy to follow very strict, rigid programs in order to get better. Diets are infamous for the fact that very few people can follow them because we are human and we want our chocolate or we want our freedom. So what my program does is it looks at the big heavy hitters in your life, those things that are really moving the needle in the positive or in the negative direction. And that's what I want to capture for myself, for depression and anxiety, for you, whether you want to become a faster swimmer, a better runner. There are things that promote wellness, and there are things that just don't. So let's dive into the program. I'll start at the end, I'll start with my chart here. I've got new technology here, so bear with me. If we look at so what you're seeing here, this is a plot of basically 3 years of data where I took 62 behaviors, and maybe I can zoom in on it. I took 62 behaviors and I tracked them for many different studies. I think, yeah, I got 6 studies up there and 792 days. I used a multivariate and single variable linear regression model. I can explain those a little later, with a p-value of significance of less than 0.05, which basically that says I was very strict, following the normal guidelines of statistics, of looking at comparing my behaviors to the output, and this output in this particular is emotional wellness. And I was looking at like how emotionally stable and well I was during a period of time, and what was happening, what behaviors did I have that contributed to this. In this plot here, you see here that I have some of these dietary inputs and some of these behaviors. You can see here on the left that omega-3, it's a supplement that I was taking, has a 0.5 score, the highest score in the positive direction. So what this is talking about is I looked at my omega-3 input and my emotional wellness, and I looked at it for, say I were, for 9 days in a row. Let's say I were to take omega-3 on Monday, and then I looked at how I felt that day, how I felt on Tuesday, and so on, clear up until the next week. And I looked at whether or not, whenever I would take omega-3 or not take it, how it affected my emotional wellness. Now, again, I'm kind of telling you, I'm very far into the weeds telling you how the sausage is made. For those who are interested, this is the video for you in the background. But for those who aren't, just check out some of these outcomes that came. Everything is a bar chart here. To finish this, a score of 0.5 means that for half of the 9 days, the omega-3 shows a statistically significant impact in the positive, with both multi and single variable analysis, towards me feeling emotionally well. I wanted to give a call out to, let's see. So what I have here is I went through as much literature as I could to determine from the professionals, the ones who have studied this, what can I do to be cured of depression. And lo and behold, this book, the omega-3 came from this book, which is called The Depression Cure by Stephen S. Hardy, PhD. It's a 6-step program to beat depression without drugs. In this book, the 6 steps, one of the steps, let's see if I can find it here, is rumination. And you can kind of see over here on the right, ruminate. So rumination is in the negative, it's below the main axis, which means it's negative. And you can see that rumination, and I'll talk about that, is one of the worst things, or one of the behaviors that I had, which contributed to my emotional unwellness. And we can talk about whether or not rumination was simply a indicator that depression was coming or was there, which is very much a possibility. It's one of the chicken or the egg things, where when you are depressed and you do have very mean thoughts towards yourself, that it might be just, you're depressed and you're ruminating. It's not that rumination brought on depression. And that's a fine point that I've had a lot of heartache over, because many people believe that those who focus on the negative, or those who are critical, are the ones who are going to be depressed. And that's not necessarily always true. You see here, though, with this, that I have a... Hey, bud. My boy just got home from school. So you can see here cardio, which is running. I try to run 10-minute miles, 3 miles. On the weekends, I can run much further. Cardio is a huge contributor, and I hope to show you a few. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah. So this is one of the sub-studies, not the overall study. On the left, you see single variable linear regression, which just looks at one variable and how it affects the emotional wellness. And it does this, like I said, up to the 9 total days. So if you start at day 0, that's 1 day, and then 1 through 8, so a total of 9 days. And what we're looking at is the statistical significance, the ripple effect of that behavior on mental health. What you see here, here's an example, cardio, which we were just talking about. Cardio had, out of 9 days, 5 of those days, or just over 5 of those days, were statistically significant for the positive. And then as we started to march forward in time, it started to drop off. The way to interpret this is basically by day 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 days into the future, I guess you could say, if you do run today, you're going to see an effect, a positive effect on your emotional wellness. At least I will. So it's a very strong behavior with a good residual, means that it has a lasting effect into the future. And these are the kind of things you need to be aware of, is if I have a behavior today, am I going to be able to ride on that, coast on that? Weights would be the next behavior that I tried. And it is funny, you can see how the weights have a negative effect after this day number 3, which is 3 days into the future. And the negative effect is when I usually go to lift, I lift pretty hard and I get sore. And so you can see after day 2, it starts to go to 0 and goes negative for a couple days. I thought that was really interesting, the way that this algorithm that I have was able to look at and show the soreness of my body and how it impacted my emotional health. So if we look at, I don't know why they're repeated here. Might be a different study. If we look at just this rumination. So rumination is a pretty reliable behavior for mental unwellness. We say unwellness because it's now in the negative. that if I ruminate today, it's going to last consistently, not high in magnitude like cardio, but it's going to have a parasitic effect. Kind of, it's going to get in there and it's just going to throw some sand in the gears, and sometimes it's hard to not ruminate. One thing that I wanted to talk about, or we'll talk about at some point, is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's one of the more effective plans of defeating mental illness, depression, anxiety. In here we've got, this is an older book, but it's an oldie but a goodie. And it has, 10 different cognitive distortions. I have them written up on a big whiteboard that I have here. And some of the cognitive distortions that I have been guilty of, but I'll just list them all off and I'll let you know which ones I'm guilty of. Are number one, it's all or nothing thinking. And you can listen to somebody talk and you can really determine whether or not they're guilty of all or nothing thinking, because it's a black and white. There's no shades of gray. It's all or nothing. The second one is overgeneralization, like everybody hates me, or I always am late to work, something like that. Mental filter. This one is one I'm very guilty of, is just seeing negative or scary or threatening things in my life and just dwelling on those. That's part of hypervigilance, which those who suffer from PTSD or some sort of a trauma, it just makes sense that mentally you'll be attuned to dangers. I can only imagine Sylvester Stallone, if he were a real character in Rambo, how messed up he might be, unless he's pathological, right? Unless he doesn't have equipment in his brain which stores memories and helps protect him in the future by making him hyper-vigilant. Anyway, so the next one is disqualifying the positive, and so this one is turning neutral or positive events into negative. It's like an alchemy, like turning gold into crap. And I'm guilty of that a lot of times. Like somebody compliments me, I have a knee-jerk reaction of, oh, but you didn't see all the work I did for this. It's like, whatever. Like, it makes things awkward. And that's a trigger for me, is the word awkward, because I believe as an engineer that some people have said I am an awkward person to talk to. I don't think I am, but it definitely has created a type of a trigger for me. Maybe I'm awkward because I am so open, or I like to talk about deep things. I'm not like a football kind of guy, just chatting about the football or the weather. I think that's kind of a waste of time and energy. But at the same time, I do get drained mentally because I'm always trying to dig to the depths, not saying that I'm smart. Anyway, so here I am. That's a good example of my mental framework of mental distortions right there. The other one, number 5, is jumping to conclusions. A lot of times we believe we can predict the future, and we see an event and we know it's going to be terribly wrong. I've been having a lot of I have vivid dreams, and for the last 5 years I've had a lot of nightmares about traveling. I would travel a lot for the United States Air Force around the country, mostly around the world, actually, many different countries, and dreaming about forgetting where my hotel is, losing my bag, which actually happened in Morocco one year, being stuck on Mount Fuji, feeling elevation sickness and feeling terrible. I have dreams and nightmares about that still. So the other one is magnification and minimization. So that's pretty self-explanatory. If you got a B on your paper, maybe you'll magnify that to, no, that's not a good, you'll maybe minimize that and say, well, it's not an A. Number 7 is emotional reasoning. So emotions are evidence of truth. That's a tough one. I believe that when you're in the grips of an emotion, it is extremely hard to deny that. I was brought up Mormon, and I think a lot of religions play upon this, that your feelings are indications of truth. I'm currently no longer Mormon, but having been raised the first 20, 30 years of my life, going on a mission and talking to people and sharing the Book of Mormon with people and telling them that all they have to do is pray about the truth. There was no studying, there was no looking into the history, there was no comparison, which are all taught in academia or just in basic reasoning skills. But it was all on Galatians 5:22 in the Bible, which is the fruits of the Spirit. And that Mormons or many Christians believe that when the Spirit is present, the Spirit's there to confirm truth. And so emotional reasoning is one of my biggest stumbling blocks, because depression and anxiety, and those things get into you, and your brain starts telling you that you're a loser, and you feel like a loser. And if you're taught and you haven't gotten rid of that terrible rationalization method of just believing your feelings are truth, then you're going to start to believe it, and you're going to go that way. So there's a lot to unpeel or unpack for me on that avenue. I'm extremely interested in philosophy and religion and spirituality, and I'm very interested in why us humans are so interested in it. But maybe on a different time we could talk about that. Number 8 is shooting on yourself, or masturbating. Have you masturbated lately? So masturbating or shooting on yourself is cutting yourself down, saying that I should be better at this. I should be a better parent. Which for me, as a father, beautiful family, beautiful wife, I know I can be better. I should be better. And you see what you've done. And sometimes you see on social media other dads doing a better job. And you get all shooted until you have to masturbate yourself out of there. So that one's a tough one for me. Number 9, labeling and mislabeling. So we live in a day and age of the woke culture where a lot of people are trying to wake others up of the internal biases that we have, that maybe we don't know we have, because it's like air or like water for fish. They're just inside of us, and there's many different psychological studies of microaggressions or responses to certain pictures and what have you. Like we have these biases built in us. For some of them have been survival mechanisms sometime in the past, or what. But I think it's been a good awakening. It has definitely a lot of downsides, where it's a reverse prejudice, where many people just are judged by their gender and by the color of their skin, and they become public enemy number one. It's really a tough problem. Hey, babe.
You're recording?
Yeah. You want to come in?
Well, let me get my food.
okay.
Well, I'll be distracting one.
Oh, you're okay.
Smells like blueberry farts in there.
Will you close the door? You can come in.
Let me get my food.
Okay. So my wife just got home. She's been pretty awesome at picking up some odd jobs here and there to help us not go too deeply into our savings while I'm looking for a job. She's awesome. That's all I can say. I've invited her to come and be a part of this. She'll offer a woman's perspective of living with a man who can go through some unstable periods and rumination and all that. Anyway, so we'll end up with the 10 distortions, cognitive distortions of personification. So this says arbitrarily decide all is your fault due to an ineptitude and stupidity. So personification is the king of guilt, that you own everything, even if it wasn't your fault. Maybe if your kids spray painted the principal's car, you would take that on, or personalization. Did I say personification? Personalization. It will be you're the one who is in charge of that. If we look over here on, I hope you can see it, but the multivariable, so single variable and multivariable is able to look at all the different combinations or interactions between these behaviors. And you can see here with bedtime, multivariably bedtime, and this is going to bed late. So for me, I'm naturally a night owl, and if I go to bed late tonight, I'm going to have an awesome day tomorrow. But it's going to catch up with me, and the statistics show that a day or two out, I'm going to feel miserably mentally. If you look at commitment was an interesting behavior to track. My level of commitment to my job, or mostly this is my commitment to standing up for myself and speaking my mind and not worrying what others think. And you can see it has a positive effect. It's just almost as powerful as running. And that sense of self-advocacy, the sense of not letting other people mow you over, of standing up for yourself. For some people, it's very easy. Maybe first children in the family, the firstborns. But for those in the middle who kind of feel overlooked naturally, I think that commitment to standing up for yourself is a task. But I know that when I do stand up for myself and my dreams and my goals and my values, has a positive effect. And statistically, again, statistics don't have feelings or opinions. And that's why this HINDsight 80/20 is such a revelation to me, is it's able to interpret myself in a non-biased way. So I want to just kind of show you that. If we get back to this, you can see that these are the things that have given me good emotional stability, resilience, and toughness, which resilience is the ability to resist stress and not change. Okay, that's the straight up like engineering definition. Resilience is when you load up a material and it can hold it and not deform. Toughness is different. It's toughness is the ability to resist stress up until you completely fail. So those people who are mentally tough, they're going to go to their extremes and they're going to go and fail. And they're forever going to be different, because a tough material, the toughness of a material is it goes beyond it's elastic. It goes into its plastic. It starts to deform. And it can still be tough and bear weight, but it's never going to be the same. And if you go to its limit, it will crack. It will fracture. So you can see here Coke. I'll show you a graph about my Coke experiment. Coke is part of my diet because the human body can adapt to what we're taking. I noticed that I was having a Coke every day for 2 months, and I felt wonderful, but then it started to not work for me, and I got really upset or down because I thought I had found that silver bullet, the thing that would kill the werewolf of depression. But I talked with a good friend of mine who is a licensed counselor. He wasn't counseling me, but he's like, yeah, it's no wonder, like, the body adapts. And I was like, oh, so I don't drink a Coke every day, but I do drink it on occasion. And it definitely helps with my mind to rebound from heavy, taxing my brain too much. Letting go CBD. So CBD is kind of I believe it's like not anyway. CBD is like CBD oil things that you take. So you can tell my brain is already fried from all these different takes. You can see over here rise time on the right is negative. So getting up late, sleeping in is not good. But over the course of maybe more podcasts, I'll talk about these. Kava, anti-fragility, journaling, like all of these things I'm now implementing into 2022. All of these came out of my studies of 2013, 2019, 2020, and 2021. The inert behaviors, basically I call these inert, like they don't really move the needle, but they were part of my study, are listed here, saying I don't know, eating salad, which I'm finding salad is part of my diet now, and stuff like that. So I wanted to show you the output. Now I wanted to show you the actual data on emotional wellness laid on a plot of the year. An interesting thing about analyzing data over multiple years is you can look and see if there are any seasonal issues, like whether it's pollen in the air and you're getting allergies, you're getting symptoms of watery eyes, itchy nose, and that's affecting you emotionally, or you're getting seasonal affectation disorder, which is usually when you don't get a lot of light. It's in the winter time, low on your vitamin B. Anyway, so I wanted to show you this plot. This plot is pretty interesting. Hey, here's my wife. Let's see. Let's make sure.
No. Just listening.
Well, you can maybe see if that stays on there when you move the thing closer here. So this is my beautiful wife, and let me get this screen. You might have to get pretty close.
I don't know if I agreed to this.
I can turn the...
No, it's good.
There you are. Okay, so hopefully when I put this down... So I was just going to glean over the hard data here. Just talk about the 3 years of study. On this graph, we have 829 days. So the last 30 days of me implementing some of the findings from the last 3 years. But you can see that it's important to plot out how you feel over the course of the year for many years to see if seasonally you also have a bum time of year. And one thing that I didn't really put together was in the months of August and September. Those are notorious months for my eyes. For some reason, whether it's allergies or whatever, this is the time when everything starts to go fuzzy, no matter what I do with my contacts or glasses. And this is usually the time I go to my optician, my eye doctor, and he prescribes like a new power for my lenses, and I do that for like a month. And it's terrible because when you can't see or things are blurry, no matter how close or how far they are, it definitely affects my mental health. But you can see that reflected. So the green line here is in 2020, and this teal colored line is 2019, the second half of 2019. What I wanted to tell you, I talked about Coke earlier. So in all of these studies, the time when I felt the best for the longest was in 2019, and this is when I started drinking a Coke a day. And you can see how that Coke a day just allowed me to be near a 9 and a 10. I didn't really explain this, but the scale on the left is 0, I feel completely depressed, lousy. 10, I'm in extreme bliss, and I'll show you those on my my plots or my actual program. But you can see here that I was nearly always for about a month, I guess it is, feeling wonderful, but then it started to drop off. And this drop off is when I took a trip to Bahrain, and it was terrible. I was sick the whole time, and maybe we'll talk about that story. But you can see that both of these years have a severe dip in September. And I think I've looked at pollen count at that month in the area where we live. Coming over here to the left, you've got this red line, which is my current 2022 data. And right below it is a green line, which is the 2021. And then you've got the white line, which is 2021. Oh, I think they're both 2021. So we've got 2021, 2020, and 2022. You can see that they all kind of peak in towards the mid-January to end of January. But my last few days have not been pretty good, but the average is starting to trend and fall down towards, a 3. And in this plot, like if I get to a 2, I'm basically in bed with a lot of suicide ideation, or I'm very nervous, I can't function well. And you see through all of this data, whether it's in 2020, 2021, or 2022, that I've had quite a few points or moments where it's just a little bit overwhelming. So that kind of explains the data itself. I wanted to show you the program here. Let's see here. So, and then I'll bring in my wife to talk about things here in a second.
I'll go out of the screen. There we go.
You can stay in it.
I don't want to be in the screen.
Okay. So I wanted to show you. Okay. This is the first time. Hopefully, this isn't a big wasted take, but so right now, this is what the program looks like. It's a big Excel spreadsheet, not too sophisticated, I know, but it does the job. It's easy for me to manipulate. But what we have here is every night I come in and I log a certain aspect of my life. Up in the upper column here, we've got bedtime, rise time the next day, cardio time, how far I ran, muscle building, how long it took me, omega-3. Again, this is my output. I have in this cell a power of 0.48. So I know that omega-3 from the past has really helped me. So I have a power there. That's what that's for. I'm trying a new supplement called rhodiola rosea, and we'll kind of look at that. I've already done an analysis. Mia, we've got a scale here. Maybe I can zoom in on it. So ami in French is friend. So how I feel towards myself. So 0 means I despise myself. 10 is Zeus to be me. So I feel like Zeus. I'm pretty juiced to be me. I adore myself unconditionally. So that's a 9. 5, of course, is the middle ground, neutral about self. And so every night when I come in here, I read and I try to guess. Everything's kind of qualitative. Nothing's quantitative, but I'm taking a qualitative feeling and translating into the quantitative realm, which is numbers, so that I can analyze it. So I go through all of these columns. I talk about how much CBD I was there, CBT being cognitive behavioral therapy. So I've implemented those cognitive distortions I talked about earlier into an actual goal. Rumination, how much time I ruminate for. So you can see here, get a good idea as to what the program itself looks like. It takes only a couple minutes to fill out. And you go in, you enter the data, and then these are the outputs, the columns here in black. So gut wellness, you can see the score there for guts, for my gut wellness. I haven't done a full-blown analysis on the gut. Physical wellness is how I feel physically. A lot of people are concerned with that. Maybe if you suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, or you've got just any type of physical ailment, you might be more focused on that. Emotional wellness. This is kind of my key that I've been going off of. So bulletproof bliss, kind of like the me, Zeus to be me. In the flow is a 9. You go to the other extreme, suicide wish. So 0, 1 is despise self or feel gaslit. Your reality is something that you cannot handle, or you don't believe you are a good judge of your own reality. So that's just showing you an example of some of the inputs. And again, I've gone through 6 different studies to get to these inputs, which are some of these, like the rhodiola and rosea, are new behaviors or new supplements I haven't taken. But most of these are, if I follow this, I know or have proven that they help me stay emotionally well. Again, we've got to look at that plot. That plot here, and right now it's starting to trend the same as past years. So maybe it's not getting me entirely there, but we'll have to see. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to run my program, and you'll get to see what it does. So this is an output. This is the output of my program. And what it does is it just has a bunch of numbers. You don't have to really pay attention to these numbers, but it talks about the days studied. You can study any amount of days. If you it's advised to at least have 30 days that you're running this analysis on, since it looks 9 days total of consecutive days to do this analysis. But if you have 100 days, you can look at 98 days, you can look at 50 days, and I can talk about that at some point as well. But this is the output for the month I've been doing it in 2022. And some of these outputs here is emotional wellness for multivariable, like what is really helping me. You can see that CBD and distance both have 2, so 2 out of 9 days is statistically significant. It's really helping me. Omega-3 is helping, being my own friend, letting go. Interesting thing here is on rumination, it shows that if I'm ruminating, it's helping me mentally, which that's something that's that you're like, what? I thought you said rumination was bad. And I'd have to show more data, which can really explain that. Again, because things are qualitative, they're hard to fully explain with limited amount of data. Here's the coefficients, the ripple effect. You can see that weights is this green line. In the middle of the week, I'll have a boost of emotional wellness. This line here is taking some mushroom supplements. You can kind of see they have a lag, meaning you take them today and you really won't see any benefit until they're fully processed in your system. And then about day 4, you'll start to see a benefit. So I'm going to run the program. So if we go to the developer, again, this is the program that I wrote, and I'm just going to go ahead and go to my output, go to this program, and I'm going to run, oops, of course it doesn't work. Oh, I'm on the wrong module. Okay. Because I have other things up, it has other analyses. Let me just delete those. Okay. So I'm going to run this. Confidence limit for regression is 95%, so we're pretty strict. There's a total of 30 days so far, and I want to study that amount, so I'm going to say no. So it asks which output, which is I'm going to look at emotional wellness, but here you can look at physical, cerebral, spiritual, or gut wellness. We're going to look at all our behaviors and compare them with each other for the multivariable. We're going to look at 9 total days. Oh, wait, let me cancel that. Okay.
You can edit this part out.
So you got a good example of messing up. But let me run that program again. Let me go on my output, or maybe I'll go on my data. You can see what happens there. And I'm going to play that and run. Okay. No, I'll do 30 days. Okay. Got the emotional wellness. This will run for a couple minutes. So I have a total of 16 behaviors, which is the max that Excel can do. So 16 behaviors, 9 days, what I was thinking before. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go through the analysis and start populating each of these tables. And you can see up here future days. So right now we're on day 0, which is the day of the study. And it's looking at all these different behaviors, and it's running through the single variable analysis, which means it's looking at, say, if I took CBD, the oil, the supplement today, it's looking at how I feel today emotionally. And then it's looking at the 30 days and it's coming up with a good fit. It's trying to fit the data. If the data fits well, with my emotional output, then it's got some statistical significance of affecting me emotionally. And so you can see up here, future day 1, it's now looking at tomorrow. So it's shifted everything. My algorithm has gone in and shifted everything so that it's able to start looking at the ripple effect, or how things in the future, one day in the future, are affected by today. It's already on day 2. It's going to run through each of these future days. And what I do at the end is I account for and I count up how many of these days total are significant. Meaning, if I took CBD and it's shown to affect my emotional wellness for all 9 days, then the count would be 9, meaning 9 of the 9 days it was affecting me, which means that it had a lasting effect of a full over a week, like total 9 days. But very rarely is that the case. It usually drops off because your body digests, it gets over it, it processes, and you've got new inputs into your body. But while this is running, I wanted to maybe involve my wife to talk about the last 4 or 5 years and her take on what, maybe we could change chairs and that way you'll be in there. But we talked about this before, and we had already planned this, but today it's kind of impromptu. She just got back from work, so maybe we can cut it out. I don't know, but
we can try it.
But we can try it. So,
you don't have to see me to hear me.
Well, yeah, you got to see you.
I'm a little shy.
A lot of times, living with someone who, sometimes gets mentally down, depressed, or anxious, or quits the job twice, and you're unemployed twice, it's more interesting listening to the people who are affected, and mainly the wife, So while this is running, maybe I can...
Spouse.
Your partner, your spouse. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So let me... You want to sit here, or maybe...
It's backwards.
Well, maybe sit here because the microphone. So maybe start by talking about how it's the last 5 years have been.
What? That's like a huge question.
Yeah. Or whatever you want to say.
I'm not good with on the spot talking. See, the last 5 years have been difficult. Can we say that? Can I give one-word answers? No, just kidding. I think it ramped up obviously it was slowly getting difficult, and then it hit a point where it was very difficult, and then we've been working through it. Like, it's not bad every day. It's just when it's bad, when it's bad, it's bad. Or hard to, process. But you just have to do it a day at a time. But it feels like we're just in a circle, or we're just cycling through the same things over and over again. So when we do find something that does help the good days go longer, it's positive and it's encouraging. But it feels like we just need to get off of this spiral somehow, is how it feels. You have to ask me questions because I can't just keep talking.
As a wife and being unemployed currently, what is life like where you have, I guess I'll speak into the mic.
Yes.
We made kind of an unspoken agreement where when we got married, I would go and work and Ash would stay home and raise the kids. It's now, we've been married for over 22 years now, and things have changed, especially with, this depression thing. But also our kids are older, and it's actually is starting to see, like, well, do I go out and work? And now, like, talk about the situation you're in professionally, how frustrating that is.
I think it's frustrating whether or not your husband's depressed or not. But so the first time you quit your job, we moved in with my parents. They have a humongo house and needed a reason to justify it, so we gave it to them. Just kidding. They're sweet to let us move in. And then so I started thinking about what I could do to work, and so I was exploring different options. So I have my bachelor's in psychology, but with the bachelor's, obviously, it's not specialized, so I needed to figure out what I could do with that. And so my first job outside of the home, since I had kids, was to look after a sweet lady with Alzheimer's. And I decided after a couple months that I do not want to work in that field. And so I've tried a couple different, like, substituting at schools. Like, it's been just a journey of trying to figure out where I fit in the world, and, like, the skills I developed as a mother, because you develop a lot of skills, and where I'd best fit and feel like I could provide the most to my employer. Or do I start my own business? So it's a journey. It's been a long journey, and because Nate works, it's been slower than it probably needs to be. But it's frustrating because it doesn't feel like there is a place for me. Like, right, it just doesn't feel like there's just this, oh, come and do this. Like, you'll be perfect for this. It's like trying to find it is difficult. And without having a real career before I had kids, I don't really have anything to just jump back into. So that's been difficult. So as of right now, well, I guess the last couple years when you took your job again, I knew that I needed to get my act together and have something just in case you quit again. And so I thought, oh, I'll organize for people, or I'll kind of be like a handy woman, because that's what I like to do. Like, I can renovate homes and stuff to a degree. So I started doing that for people to see if I could actually make money doing it, and I made money, and I'm just not very good at the business end or, like, the PR. So, like, getting business but has been something I need to work on, because I haven't actually had to go out and get business yet. It has been people, like, talking to other people and recommending me. And then I decided maybe I would improve my skills by going to interior design.
What's your
school?
Twitter thing?
I don't have Twitter.
Or
Instagram. Room to Enjoy. I think RTE.
Oh. Okay.
It's my name, and then .RTE.
Your full name?
Yeah. So now Nate quit the second time. I started applying for actual employment to work for someone else, just so I had a consistent income coming in. So that's kind of been new and scary, because you're, like, having to be judged by other people. I can't just hide in my house. And so that's what I've been doing. But whether or not Nate would have quit or not, I probably still would be at the same point, because I feel like I can contribute to the household income, and I need things to do. Like, I need to feel, like, good outside of the home too. because the kids are getting older and they're graduating and they're moving on, and I know at one point they will all be out of the house and I'll be empty nester, and I can't clean my house every day and feel the same and be satisfied. Like I just can't stay home and just take care of the home. I would have so much free time that I would go crazy. maybe not. So anyway, I probably wouldn't be here also, but I just realized it's hard for a stay-at-home mom to go out into the workforce. It's been a challenge. You just don't feel like there's anywhere you belong.
Until you get that first job, and then
yeah,
you
like
all of a sudden can have that resume spot, right?
Well, right, like you can't, like jobs want experience, but you don't get experience unless you have experience, and so it's just like this funny little cycle.
I just pulled up her Instagram. I just wanted to, not everything, very small fraction of what she's done is on here, but I wanted maybe to show a few things that she's done.
We don't need to see them all. I'm not good at PR. Like, I'm not good at promoting myself. Like, I'm telling you, I have probably 1,500 photos I need to like post.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yes. So that's just where I am at. I think helping relieve the financial stress would help Nate, but I also think that he's not gonna feel satisfied unless he's providing also. So, yeah.
What, from an aspect of a spouse dealing with their spouse who's dealing with mental health, let's say there's women out there in your situation, mm-hmm. and they're at their wits' end. I know you've been at your wits' end a few times.
Yeah, this morning I was like, oh my gosh!
Maybe explain this morning so you can, they can understand.
They can understand. Well, I think your mood just goes up and down, like, depending on what's happening. Like, I think I have to disconnect quite a bit and just realize that I don't have a lot of control and I need to find control somewhere else. That's probably why I'm obsessed with organizing, because that's where I can control things. But I have loosened up a lot, I feel like, and I just kind of have to be in the mindset of like, well, like letting it go. Like, I can't hold on to the how I think things should be. I just have to hold on to the moment and trying to be positive and trying to, I don't know, it's not easy.
What, other than disconnecting, is there anything that helps manage the day-to-day?
I just don't think about the important, no. I try to just think about the day-to-day, the minute-to-minute, the what needs to be done. I can't think of the long-term. Okay. Otherwise, you kind of go crazy. Like, you can't ruminate about it. Well, if Nate was working, then we could, like, move into a bigger house. And it's like, no. Not that we want to move into a bigger house, but I was just trying to think of something. But it's just, like, then we could just, like, focus on... It would be nice if Nate wasn't depressed. Then we could focus on, like, the swim meets and the after-school activities and the things our kids need to do. But the energy kind of gets taken up. So in order to combat that, I just try to focus on those things I want to focus on, I guess.
No, that's good.
I don't know if that's good or not, but you can't focus on it all the time. The depression.
Yeah.
Because it comes and goes.
Unless you're depressed.
Unless your depression causes other depression in other people. I think getting enough sleep and staying well fed and I get hangry. Not being hangry helps me keep my emotional level my emotions level. But there's a point when Nate's like purging, and then my daughter's purging, and then my oldest is purging, and it's just too much. There's a point when it's just too much.
And what do you do at those points?
I go watch a murder mystery and I disconnect. Because you can't stay connected all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good advice. I think you just have to have patience, and it's kind of not about you. Like, it hasn't been about me for a long time, but it just can't be about me because you don't really have room at the moment, and that's fine with me. That's okay with me. But it might not be all right with someone else. We're all different.
Yeah. Sounds like...
Oh, Max locked me in here. Please, go out.
There's our youngest. Well, I think we'll see how receptive people are to this and move forward at talking about individual aspects of living with anxiety and depression, and the treacherous and up and down path that entails, and then also from a spouse's or friend's point of view, which will be...
Maybe I'll have better answers if I think about it.
This was totally on the spot, and
it's not very encouraging.
Well, I think we've reached a point where we know it's not going to be cured, but we're building up methods to deal with and live with the cards that we've been dealt, and hopefully we're really good at poker and we can have a good poker face. But I'll continue to finish up explaining this program, and we'll do other podcasts where it's more organized and not just so much on the spot for Ash. And does that sound good?
Yeah, it'd be more fun if it was funnier stuff, right?
Well, yeah.
But depression's not really funny. Or is it?
Well, it can be. There's a lot of funny things, but mostly not funny. But yeah, we'll look at possibly creating a space where couples can feel normal, even though they're living a life that's very abnormal and tough. Mm-hmm. But we want you to know that you're not alone, that there are people who are struggling, and we've got a million things we can be grateful for.
Yeah. Not a lot of people. Millions of people.
Oh, yeah. Millions suffer. But there's... Right now, most of the people taking the limelight and speaking on this, I feel, are very uneducated, and they're saying the wrong things, and they're stigmatizing people with depression and couples with depression. And for me, I just want to add my 2 cents to the conversation. I feel like I do have a PhD in the area when it comes to misery and feeling miserable. And I can speak against those simplistic ideas of, oh, well, you got to stop dwelling, or, oh, well, it's because this and that. It's a complicated problem, and I have come up with a complicated program that's simple for the user, but complicated in the background, right, that will help live the best life that you can with what you have.
Right. It's not all about just thinking positive.
Yeah.
Are you going to take over?
Yeah.
Okay.
You going to head out? Make like a baby and head out?
Take kids to swimming.
Okay. So, kids got to make it to swimming. Glad my wife was available to grace us with her presence. Again, this is Ashley Phillips' Room to Enjoy on Instagram. We definitely need to populate this with her great stuff. Let's go back to the program. You can see here the program has gone. We've got a whole page of stuff. And this is the stuff that I look at to look at how effective the program captured the variables and the behaviors and the relationships. And down here at the bottom is looking at correlation. And some of this information, you don't have to like tune in too heavily, but correlation is when you have multiple variables, you want to make sure those variables aren't one and the same, like basically redundant. So you can see anything above like a 0.7 are pretty strongly interdependent. So letting go, if you come where that crosses, we got negative 0.76, and you go across, and rumination is highly correlated with letting go, but in the negative sense, which is funny because it basically, the mathematics looks at letting go, and it's basically opposite of ruminating, which to me, I find it very fascinating. Here we've got one of a positive 0.9, so CBD and loving myself. So those are highly correlated, which essentially it's whenever I feel like I'm taking care of myself, I'm popping a CBD oil pill. So that's interesting. Let's see, 0.69, we've got CBD and taking shrooms. So those I was more or less taking together, so that's not surprising. Anyway, so looking at those, looking at single variable, multivariable for each of the days, counting them up, you can see here right now for the multivariable that 2 out of the 9 days running far has a positive correlation with emotional output. CBD does as well. For single variable, letting go has a high of 2. And this is where I get back to rumination. So for multivariable, it shows positive, which means when I'm ruminating, it's helping me emotionally. But it's counteracted by the single variable, which shows that when I ruminate, I have negative emotions. So those two effectively in my algorithm will be canceled out. Anti-fragility, that's a study of basically making yourself stronger so that bad things, when they happen to you, you become stronger. The immune system is an example of anti-fragility. Who's the guy who introduced that? I think it's Nassim Taleb. I've got a book up here by Nassim. It's Fooled by Randomness. He's a pretty good author on topics relating to anti-fragility. You can see here on Shroom, it doesn't score any on multivariable, but scores a 3 on single variable. So anyway, this is just kind of the behind the scenes, the engine, if you will, of the analyses that I run on people, then look at the outputs, and for some reason, these don't update every time. But yeah, basically just using tools to help me really understand what it is that helps me emotionally. And so that's that. I think I included everything that I wanted to talk about. I mainly just wanted to show the outputs. I can show you a little bit about, maybe it's the sampling analysis. This last thing I'll just show you. A sampling analysis is the amount of work, or it shows the amount of work that I put in to all of these days, all these outputs. and it took about a week for me to process everything and come up with a conclusion that I was confident in. And I wanted to show you, here are these inert behaviors. They do have some statistical significance, but not a lot compared to the others. Again, we're going for the 80-20, the 20% of our behaviors that produce 80% of the output or our emotional wellness, whether it's positive or negative. You can see here that these are some to consider, like doing breath work. This was correlated with meditation for me, and meditation for me actually was rumination. So you can see negative, it showed a negative 0.15. Doing breath work and breaks, usually, what do they say? Idleness is the devil's. I can't I can't think of it. But like having free time sometimes isn't good when you have a mind that's active in the negative sense. And then here's the single variable. Like we've got a high level for the ginkgo, the supplement that I was taking, and bedtime, social media. What was this one? This is the combination of single and multivariable, and you can kind of see how those fall out. But again, I was looking at the aspects or the behaviors that really move the needle for me. So I'll save this, and I will get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, well, we've gone almost an hour and a half, and again, I didn't anticipate it being this long, but if you did watch this until now, congratulations, you're one of the elite, the few who could get through that. I think if I do have a good interest of this program, I'll continue to make YouTube videos, podcasts, maybe reach out, and if you would like to solicit my analytical services to help you troubleshoot something in your life or your children's life or your wife's life or your husband's life, if they're willing to put in the time, a few minutes a night, every night for as long as it takes. Again, ideally, it's always better to have more data, up to 3 months. A study of 3 months is great. Do a study of 3 years, it's even better. But if you tried everything and you're still coming up short of solving a problem, let's apply engineering principles and let's troubleshoot this, and let's use the mathematics and this program that I've already built, and I hope that it might help in some way. If not, there's plenty of other methods out there, but this one takes all those methods and synthesizes them and looks at what are the heavy hitters that will make an impact in your life. So thank you for your time, and I hope to see you sometime soon. Take care. Again, this is the HINDsight 80-20 program, and thank you much.